Hey folks, I recently got a chance to try out Frosthaven Digital's Early Access, which goes live today, so definitely use the link in the description to check it out if you're interested. But while the tutorial there is going to do a decent job of teaching you how the game works, it's not going to hold your hand through the actual gameplay. With that in mind, Arc Digital has sponsored a couple videos going over some basic strategies. Today we're looking at combat, and here's a secret, these also work for Gloomhaven. So, here are my top 5 beginner tips for staying alive. There's something that's pretty easy to overlook when you start this game. You've been thrust into your first mission, you're learning the systems, and then you win the day and get swept up in the narrative. You're eager to continue on, but there's one thing that you should probably do before starting your next mission. See, each character starts with 3 more cards than you can fit in your deck, and some of these cards will probably match your desired playstyle a little better than your basic loadout. After your first mission is done, I'm willing to bet you'll have noticed at least one card that you just didn't use or thought was a little underpowered. So head over to the character screen and see if any of these other cards might be a bit more interesting. You won't be locked in either, so if you change your mind, you can go back between missions and continue to experiment. Speaking of cards, if you've played this game for any length of time, then you've seen this load screen. And the thing is, while this is true and super important, it's not telling the whole story. Really, you should be looking at the cards in your deck as a mission clock. And knowing this, you can actually calculate how many turns you have left. If you have 10 cards in your deck, that's 5 turns before you need a rest. Then you burn one, meaning you'll have 4 turns until the next rest. Then 4 again, then 3, and so on. I'll call each of these a rest cycle. It's a lot of turns at first, but if you burn a card to soak up some damage or to use a strong ability, that's reducing the amount of turns you have left by 1/2 of the number of rest cycles you have left. Put simply, the earlier you do it, the bigger the cost is. And since it's almost impossible to get them back, especially in the early part of your campaign, burning cards is something that should only be done when it's really worth it. That means either you're facing a really big hit, or you can make an attack that can take out a big enemy or a couple of enemies. And ideally, not in the first room. Oh, and another thing about rooms. When you've finished clearing out all the enemies in a room, there's often an impulse to get into the next one. The clock is ticking, after all. But worse than the potential danger of running out of time is the likely danger of going in unprepared. Even if I'm not completely out of cards, if I'm near the end of my hand, I like to do a long rest before charging into the next room. You heal a bit, you end up with a full hand of cards, and you get to start the fight with your best foot forward. Another strategy is to open the door and then step back a bit. You won't get an attack this turn, but you can often use the door to bottleneck your opponents. Maybe picking them off with ranged attacks as they come in, or avoiding the ranged attackers that lose line of sight to you. This won't always work, but when it does, it's very satisfying. After playing for a while, you'll start to get a good feeling of what the enemies are capable of, but early on, or when facing a new monster type, you really need to pay attention to what the enemies are going to do on their turn. Because all this information is available to you as soon as you lock in your cards, you can determine how each enemy is going to act. If an opponent is going to do a big attack but won't move, feel free to put yourself one space away from them if they're melee, or right next to them if they're ranged, forcing their attack to be made a disadvantage. If an enemy is going slower than you but faster than an ally, if you can kill them before their turn, that might be more valuable than attacking a different target. Or, if you can't take anyone out, remember that enemies will attack whoever is closer to them, with the tiebreaker going to whoever has the earlier initiative. So keep all of this in mind when choosing your targets. It usually feels like the right decision to go as fast as you can, but there are times when going slower is actually to your benefit. For example, if your ally has something they really want to do, but it'll only work if they go first, you might need to choose the slower option for your cards. Or if the enemies are far away, choosing to go slowly means they'll do the work of getting closer to you, which might put them in range without you having to work too hard for it. Another thing I like to do in that situation is to try to go last on one turn, and then use my actions to set up a really powerful, fast turn on the next round. This effectively gives you 2 uninterrupted turns, which is often all you need to take out a normal enemy. And those are my top 5 combat tips for Frosthaven. But of course, this only scratches the surface of this massive game. So if you have some tips of your own, please leave them in the comments below. And this isn't all I've got for you. In a couple weeks, I'll be releasing a strategy video for building your outpost. So if you want to see that when it comes out, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And again, if you want to play Frosthaven Digital's Early Access, please use the link in the description to head on over to Steam and try it out. That's it for me, folks. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.